Want to bring in Editor-in-Chief Andy Serwer back from Omaha, Nebraska, where he was out there for the virtual meeting of the Berkshire Hathaway annual shareholders meeting. Although it was not virtual for Andy, he was there. Andy, we're going to get into the airlines in a moment, but just to start really big on Buffett and what he said, do you think that some of the concerns that we're hearing people talk about today is that he was not a buyer overall when we were seeing volatility and that the market was down, that there were people that thought, you know, if anyone's going to step in, it's going to be Berkshire. And the fact that they didn't, does that impact people's psyche a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, it was funny because we were trying to parse through it real time. And Jen, you've been there, and doing that can sort of be tricky. But I felt like this time was actually more nuanced than ever because, you know, he starts off with this expansive soliloquy in defense of America, the greatness of America, i.e. warts and all. He talked about the deficiencies when it came to founding fathers in terms of African Americans and how we've short-shrifted women throughout history. But basically, it was one big pep talk. And I was like, well, this is kind of real feel-good music here. And then I realized that actually what he was doing was mitigating the underlying more negative message, which was he sold all the airlines. He was not doing a big Berkshire buyback. The stock was not attractive. He was not going into the market and buying securities. So I think that if he had not said anything, it would have been like, wow, this is all negative. And what he wanted to do was assuage that a little bit by saying, look, the long-term case for America is still there. However, right now, you know, things don't look so great for Warren Buffett. And actually, I think they're a little bit more negative than a lot of market participants. And, you know, when he talked about the airlines, he was saying, you know, it's just, this is not going to recover for a long time, like 3 to 5 years maybe.
And on that point about the airlines, Andy, we have Warren Buffett taking that question on the airline stake. Here he is from Saturday.
When we sell something, very often it's going to be our entire stake. I mean, we don't trim positions or that's just not the way we approach it any more than if we buy 100% of a business, we're going to sell it down to 90% or 80%. I mean, if we like a business, we're going to buy as much of it as we can and keep it as long as we can. But when we change our mind,
the next question.
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead. When you change your mind?
Well, when we change our mind, we don't take half measures or anything of the sort. So I was amazed at how, frankly, now we were selling them at far lower prices than we paid, but I was amazed at the volume. The airlines always trade in large volume relatively, but we have sold the entire positions.
Stock, and that hit those stocks hard today. American Airlines, the worst performer in the S&P 500. Rick Newman, bringing you in here on this wholesale sale of the airlines. Warren Buffett is the most famous long-term investor, right? He's not in there watching what's happening with a given stock on one day. What does that say about the airlines when Warren Buffett throws in the towel?
I mean, you don't want to conclude that they're toast, but it sounds as if that's basically where he's headed. Now, I don't know if we know exactly when he got out, and that matters. I mean, if he got out in March, early March, he was getting out probably near the top. But if he got out last week, you know, that was probably not the greatest trade. So, you know, that timing matters. But the way I am hearing all of this is about as grim as Warren Buffett has sounded in some time. You know, Andy has followed him so long. I wonder what Andy's thoughts are about if you've ever heard Warren sound this grim. But to basically say, I'm selling everything and buying nothing, that is not the usual don't bet against America.
Andy, fair to say?
Yeah, I don't disagree at all, Rick. And, so this was what he was saying is that a lot of people are underestimating how much damage this is going to do and how much time it's going to take to recover. And, when you're into the airlines, you figure, well, I can ride this thing out. He was going to ride it out. But he just, and he said there are too many planes. It's going to take too long to get back to the passenger loads that we had just, 4 months ago. And the notion of sitting packed in like sardines is just not going to fly, pun intended. And so, there are a bunch of other businesses like that, and wrestling with all of these huge changes that are going to be with us for quite some time in America's largest urban areas. But also, you look today, the virus is, sweeping through Brazil right now, and it's bad in this area and that area. It's not going to stop on a dime. It may be getting better here, but it's getting worse somewhere else, and the implications are huge.
The airlines 3 months ago, at the beginning of February, the airlines were about as healthy as they've been in at least 20 years. After all those bankruptcies and consolidations, they had gotten rid of excess capacity, done a good job of right-sizing their fleets, and they had high load factors. So that means they were flying the right planes. And I know there's some complaints about, they were buying back shares instead of stockpiling cash, but companies really cannot get away with, not many companies can get away with stockpiling cash. I think the airlines are the biggest set of collateral damage possibly in this entire wipeout we're seeing. And I guess Warren Buffett's saying it's not getting better anytime soon.
Yeah, just two quick things to add on there, Rick. By the way, I was talking to him. Remember, I did that interview with Buffett on March 10th, and I asked him, are you selling airlines? Because that was sort of in the beginning of things. He goes, I'm not selling airlines today. And that was after the market tanked a couple times because of the coronavirus. So, he did that. He brought up that famous quote from John Maynard Keynes. What do you do when you get new information? I change my mind. What do you do, sir? And boy, did he change his mind when it came to that. The other thing is Buffett has a very, how do we say this? Not so good track record when it comes to airlines. I mean, you remember what the US Air bid him in the Petunia one time, big time. One of his big stumbling blocks, big stumbling points. US Scare, they called it back then for him, as you remember. Went to Pittsburgh. Didn't that airline go to Pittsburgh, Rick?
It was based there for a while. It was headquartered there, yeah.
That's correct. That's why you would know it so well. But anyway, so some wags are saying, well, there goes Buffett blowing it in the airlines again. I think there's a little bit more to it than that, however, at this point.
Well, Rick brought up the idea of, collateral damage here. And today, aside from the airlines, also seen Boeing, of course, they're a plane supplier, Boeing falling here today on that aerospace cautiousness, GE Aviation announcing layoffs. So this is not just about consumers not going and we're going to have flights grounded. This goes much deeper than that.
Hey investors, Zach Guzman here. Are you interested in learning more about the markets and getting the latest financial news? Well, then click right here to subscribe to our Yahoo Finance YouTube channel. Get the latest up-to-the-minute market analysis, big interviews in the world of finance, and information on how to manage your money every day wherever you are.